James Leon versus Ashley Reid. Attorney Pesno for the plaintiff. The defendant is not here.
It's now 8:42 a.m. and the defendant has not appeared, so we will proceed. Do you wish to make an opening statement or simply proceed to your proofs?
I'll proceed to my proofs, Your Honor.
Okay. And do you want to call your first witness?
And can you tell me where you're currently employed?
Integrated Services of Kalamazoo.
And what do you do there?
I've changed my role as of Monday, but I was a DD case manager for youth and families.
Okay, and explain to me what that means.
I manage cases who have developmental disabilities, most often autism.
Okay, and what's your educational background?
Bachelor of Science in Psychology.
Thank you. And where did you receive that from?
WMU.
And what year did you receive that?
2005.
Okay, and prior to being employed at Integrated Services, were you employed anywhere else?
I was employed with several ABA agencies in California and in the Middle East.
Okay. And were your roles similar at those locations?
It was different. I was actually doing the one-on-one as an ABA therapist.
Okay, so being in the DV youth manager here at Integrated Services, what exactly is your role?
Managing authorizations and referrals to ABA providers in home or center, and then trying to find resources in communities, in our community. Other supports would be going to our med clinic, as well as family support partners, making those referrals.
Okay, and are you familiar with Isaiah?
Yes, I am.
In this case, and how did you become familiar with him?
He was put onto my caseload and I helped the family to find an ABA provider after the autism diagnostic assessment.
Okay, so when did he first come to Integrated Services? Do you recall?
I think at least 2 years ago.
Okay, and when he first came, was it to find out if he had an autism diagnosis?
Yes, and to find supports.
Okay, so were you involved at all in regards to the original diagnosis of Isaiah?
I believe I helped him get on a wait list to get that assessment through our providers. And then once the assessments were found and eligible, I helped them to pick out a provider for ABA therapy.
Do you recall who diagnosed Isaiah with autism?
At this time, I can't, but I'm sure I can find it in my records.
It's okay. And where did you send them to the ABA providers? Do you know?
I think I might have sent them up with at least 2 providers for tours. One was Lighthouse, and I can't remember the other if we did go on a tour.
Okay. How much involvement do you still have with Isaiah?
Since as of Monday, I don't have any involvement, but I would be overseeing monthly observations at the ABA Center, in addition to quarterly review meetings with family and provider, which is Lighthouse.
Okay, so I'm going to break this down. So we're going to talk prior to Monday, because I know your role changed, and you said you were overseeing the monthly observations.
So I would do monthly observations.
Who do you observe?
I observe an ABA session, typically 30 minutes to an hour, and I just kind of make sure that everyone's happy and getting their quality of service.
Do you actually go to, so Isaiah's at Lighthouse, you're familiar with that?
Yes.
Okay, so you would actually go to Lighthouse and observe one of the therapies?
Correct.
Do you know what therapies he receives?
The only ones that I provide are through our ABA therapy. And the other therapies he receives, I can't recall if there are any.
Okay. Do you know in the ABA therapies what specifically he's receiving?
There's goals that I worked on, but I can't recall the specific goals.
Okay.
Because there's probably a number of them.
No, not a problem. I have other witnesses who can talk about the actual goals, so don't worry about that. Yeah. And on the monthly observations, have things seemed to be going well with this placement?
Yes.
And when you do the observation, is a parent present or is it just the therapist and Isaiah?
Just the therapist and Isaiah.
Okay. And then you said you do quarterly reviews with the family?
Yes,
Okay. And in the last 2 years, you've done approximately how many?
at least 8, I'm guessing.
Okay. And how long do those reviews last?
No more than an hour generally.
Okay. And who's present for those?
The BCBA, so which is the supervisor of the behavior therapy team.
Okay.
And I, and usually Dad.
Of those 8 sessions, do you know how many mom attended?
I want to say at least 1, maybe 2.
Throughout this process of the last 2 years, has dad been your primary contact in relationship to Isaiah?
Yes,
Is he responsive to you?
yes,
Cooperative?
yes.
How much contact do you actually have with Isaiah?
You know, I see him and I greet him every time I do my monthly observation. But we don't have conversations due to the nature of his disability.
Okay. And when you've had conversations, one or twice in the last 2 years, your contact with mom has been, let me rephrase this. Have you had any contact with mom outside of those quarterly meetings?
Yes,
Okay. And how many contact have you had with her
at least 3.
in the 2 years?
Yes,
Do you have contact with dad outside of those quarterly meetings?
yes.
How many do you think you've had with him?
I would say around 5.
And why do you have contact with the parents outside of the meetings?
One was an incident involving both parents. The second one was to possibly get a parent support partner. And it's just to follow up with, I think one time for your receptionist. So getting in communication with trying to have a meeting with you. That was it.
Okay. And are your conversations with mom pleasant?
Yes,
Do you have to reach out to her? Or does she reach out to you?
last couple of times she did reach out to me.
Has that been more frequent since May of this year?
I would say no, because it's only been about 3 times that we've spoken total.
Okay.
In the 2 years.
Okay. So it's been spaced out.
Yeah.
Do you know exactly what Isaiah's disability is besides autism?
I can't remember the latest diagnosis, but I know that it's a very rare diagnosis.
You indicated that you don't have a conversation with him because of his disability. Can you describe why you can't have a conversation with him?
There's not really a back and forth conversation. It's more commenting or a joint attention to an item or a peer or a movement.
Okay. And is he very vocal?
He is vocal, yes.
But is it words or is it more sounds?
There's not much verbal language, but there are phrases.
Does he seem to
kind
have
of-
his own language?
He does at times. Yes.
Okay. Does he seem like a happy kid?
He is a very happy kid.
Young, in regards to your involvement with the family, is there a lot of coordinating providers and therapies and that you have to do that the parents have to be involved in?
Yes, there are. Attending meetings, attending the family support trainings that occur monthly.
Where do the family support trainings take place?
They take place at Lighthouse.
Okay.
And this would be Lighthouse West location.
Okay. Now, these family support trainings, does dad participate in those?
Yes, I believe so.
Are you present for those?
I am not.
Do you receive reports in regards to how those sessions went?
They're described in quarterly meetings often,
Okay.
or scheduled during the quarterly meetings as well.
And I have no further questions for this witness.
Mr. Young, I do have one. You'd mentioned, maybe I wrote this down. You said you were referring to, I don't know if it was the ABA sessions or did I have the letters wrong?
Yep, ABA sessions,
Okay.
applied behavior analysis.
Okay, I just want to make sure of that. And what is the purpose of those sessions?
Of the purpose of me observing,
Yeah, is that all you do at those sessions is observe?
I observe and make sure that there's progress and satisfaction on both provider and family. And it's also a Medicaid requirement.
Yeah, I take it because obviously services are still provided that Isaiah was making progress.
That's correct.
And what's the extent of the progress?
Reducing problem behaviors such as tantruming, increasing communication, increasing following directions, daily living skills, which include toilet training, and expanding food choices. And the main thing is classroom readiness skills. So getting set up to sit in the classroom.
And how would you characterize Isaiah's progress?
I would like to say that it's going great.
Okay. And do you attribute that to anything?
I attribute that to parents' involvement, consistent attendance. I think that's all. And the great quality of work that Lighthouse does.
When you've had the contact with Isaiah in these matters, either whether it be through the sessions or observation or any other contact, are you able to make a determination as which of the parents is most involved?
Based on the history, I can tell you that dad has been more involved, but lately I do know that mom has been attending family support and training meetings with the supervisor of the team as well.
Okay. I don't think I have anything further. Do you have any follow-up, Ms. Spazna?
The only thing I would ask is, following up with what the judge asked you, does Isaiah have a ceiling right now?
I don't think I'm able to make that determination
Okay,
as a case manager.
okay. Who is his supervisor? The team supervisor?
Is Becca.
And she's at Lighthouse?
Yes.
Is it Becker younger?
Youngren.
Yes,
Yes.
Youngren. Okay. All right.
It may be Rebecca, but she's known as Becca.
That's okay. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Young. That concludes your testimony. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Next witness, Ms. Payson, do we have anybody else?
Nobody else in the waiting, no.
Okay,
All right, then I will call my client, Your Honor.
okay. Mr. Lang, what we'll do, have you raise your right hand, be sworn in, then we'll proceed.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Payson.
Thank you. James, can you tell me where you currently reside?
7159 Veronica Street, Kalamazoo.
And how long have you resided there?
About 15 years, 14, 15 years.
Okay, so when I talk to you, I'm going to talk to you primarily from September of 2021 to the present. Okay?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
And remember, we're being recorded, so you can't go,
Okay.
Okay. And how many children do you have?
3.
And what are the older ones' names?
Adeline,
Okay, and how old is she?
17.
All right, and what's the other one?
Riley.
All right, and how old is she?
16.
All right, and do they exercise parenting time with you?
Yes.
And what's that parenting time?
It's split 50-50 with their mom.
Like a week on, week off?
Yep.
Okay, and then you have Isaiah,
Yes.
and how old is Isaiah?
4.
All right, and what's, just for the record, what is the current parenting time arrangement with Ashley for Isaiah?
He is with me all the time except for every other weekend. And Wednesdays, Ashley has a midweek visit that she can pick him up from Lighthouse and return him by 7 p.m.
Okay, and we filed a motion, you're asking for sole legal custody, is that correct?
Yes.
And supervised or a reduction in mom's parenting time, is that correct?
Yes.
And where are you employed?
Kalamazoo Long-Term Care Pharmacy.
Okay, and what do you do there?
I'm the director of pharmacy.
Okay, and what hours do you earn?
I work a lot, but I have some freedoms to take my son to his appointments. Outside of Lighthouse, he also has appointments.
Okay, so slow down, I haven't got there yet. How many hours a week do you work?
Probably like 50
Okay.
on average.
And then you just indicated you have a lot of flexibility within your job
Yeah,
because you have to take Isaiah to appointments.
correct.
Okay, and what approximately do you earn?
Salary?
Yeah.
Is I'll probably about 200.
Okay, and how long have you been employed there?
8.5 years.
Okay, and to your knowledge, is Ashley currently employed?
Yes,
And do you know where she's employed?
I believe she still works for Eurofins.
What is Eurofins?
Eurofins is a contractor scientist group that works in conjunction with Zoetis.
Okay, and how long has she been employed there?
Probably a year, a little over maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And prior to Eurofins, that you believe that she's still working, so if we go back a year, we're talking October of 2023,
Okay.
yes, approximately.
Yeah.
Where was she employed prior to that?
She had kind of a long history of unemployment since Isaiah's birth.
No, I want to start from 2021.
Okay.
So don't go back prior to 2021.
Okay.
So go from 2021 to 2023.
I don't think she really had she had a couple of smaller jobs, but Kalamazoo Psychiatric Hospital, pharmacy for maybe a month or two. That's all I can really think about or think of.
In regards to, you indicated that mom has every other weekend and that goes till Monday morning?
Correct.
Okay, and then she's got after school on Wednesdays or from until 7 p.m. Is that correct?
Correct.
Does mom routinely exercise her parenting time?
I'll say yes, but there's definitely some holes there.
What do you mean by that?
Just sporadically will miss Wednesday pickups. She's had to drop him off early on her weekend, instead of on Monday morning returning him to the center. She's returned him to me. Prior to her moving out fully of my residence, I would say she wasn't exercising the parenting time consistently in that case.
So let's talk about that. Do you know where mom currently resides?
I believe she lives with one of her coworkers in Kalamazoo.
Do you know the address?
It's Tamarack, but I don't know the number.
Okay. Do you know how many bedrooms the home has?
I do not.
When did she begin living there? Do you know?
I believe January of 2024
Okay, and prior to January 2024, where was she residing?
with me.
She was in your home?
Yes.
Why was she residing in your home?
She was evicted from, and I don't know the date, her place in Battle Creek, and she needed a place to stay, so her kids, she has 2 other children, they were staying with me for about a year.
So they stayed with you from probably, you said about a year, so from January 2023 to January 2024.
Yeah, I think it might have been October of 22. I'm bad with dates.
It's okay, but we have to give a timeline to the court, so.
Sure, yeah, try my best here.
So you said she was evicted from her previous apartment?
Correct.
Okay, so why did you let her move in with you?
Well, just in the kids' best interest, I guess.
Her other 2 kids' best interest?
Well, them too, I would say. You know, I didn't have a great relationship with them, but yeah, they just they need some stability, I feel like.
Okay, so you were trying to help her with stability.
Yes.
So while she was living with you, you indicated she didn't exercise her parenting time. What was her involvement during that year when she was residing with you, with Isaiah?
It's kind of sporadic, but you know, minimal involvement, wake up late in the morning, you know, after everybody's gone to school, or if she had to take her kids, she would take her kids to school, often not on time, and then I would take care of Isaiah.
Even when she was in the home, were you the one primarily responsible for Isaiah?
Yes.
Okay. Would she sometimes leave and come back after Isaiah was in bed?
Yes.
Was that a frequent thing, an infrequent thing?
Very frequent.
Would she ever say anything to you in regards to helping with Isaiah?
Yeah, I would say she was moderately receptive, but she would say things if she didn't want to do it, like, this is your parenting time, so you have to do it, even if I just had to use the restroom or something like that within the hospital.
Okay, you start loud and then you
Oh,
kind of
okay.
talk quiet.
Sorry.
So just remember we're being recorded.
Yeah.
Would she help with food?
No, in terms of like purchasing it or, you know, cooking it or anything.
Yeah.
No, very infrequently. Yeah.
Okay. And you said she wasn't helping with Isaiah.
Infrequently as well.
Okay. Now let's talk about Isaiah. He's 4.
Yes.
Okay. And he's been diagnosed with autism.
Yes.
Okay. So, and we're going to break these down. What else has he been diagnosed with?
So his main diagnosis is called STX-BP1, which is a genetic disorder.
So explain to me what that say. So STX-PP1.
S is in Sam, T is in Tom, X is in X-ray, B is in boy, P is in Peter, and then the number 1. It's very rare. They just crossed 1,000 people worldwide in the census of people who have this indication. Commonly involves epilepsy. 85% of the people with this disorder have epilepsy. He is very fortunate and he is not one of them. Involves extreme communication issues, motor function issues. Many of the people with this condition, they don't, you know, aren't able to walk. They aren't able to talk, and they require frequent monitoring, or, you know, I wouldn't say frequent, I mean like every second of the day monitoring for their neurological conditions. Fortunate on the epilepsy though, he is not one of those kids at this time.
Okay. So how did you guys determine that he had this STX-BP1?
So after he was diagnosed with autism, just having spoken with a lot of other providers, they thought that maybe there was some additional conditions or something else going on. So eventually ended up at neurology, and neurology referred us to genetics after a couple visits.
Okay, no, keep going. So after a couple of visits, you went to genetics.
Yeah, went to genetics up in Grand Rapids at Helen DeVos. And after our second appointment with them, we had sent in just some genetic information to the laboratory, and it came back that he had a deficiency of this particular gene.
Okay, so let's talk about this. Who arranged for this genetic testing up in Helen DeVos?
So it was a neurology referral.
Okay, who pushed that?
I would say
Did you push it?
I would say both of us were involved at that time, but yeah, I mean, I was the one at the appointments.
Okay, so you guys are pushing this. Did Ashley attend those appointments?
Yes and no. She missed about half of them, and then we had to reschedule one because she wasn't there. Yeah.
Okay, so they did genetic testing, and then you guys received correspondence from, so what happened? So explain to me kind of how the testing worked.
So you have to, it's actually pretty simple now. They FedEx you some swabs, and we had to swab our own cheeks on the second one, and also his, and then put it in a specimen bag and send it to the lab, and then the lab analyzes the specimen versus the human genome and comes back with anything that looks irregular.
Who had to arrange you guys actually taking the swabs?
The genetic counselor or physician up at Helen DeVos,
Okay.
and then I did when they came in to my residence.
Okay, did you have to help coordinate to get Ashley to participate in this?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what you gotta tell me is what
yeah.
was Ashley's participation in this?
Yeah, well, we did ours, and then she didn't return hers, and then the physician was saying we're missing hers, and then finally she sent it in.
Okay, and after the test came back, do you know what the policy was in relationship to setting up meetings with? Do you remember the name of the doctor, the genetic doctor?
Yeah, so Dr. Lori Seaver, and we had an appointment early June.
Do you recall when the test came back?
It was on that date. That was a reporting of the findings, June of 2024.
Okay, and you said we had an appointment set up. Was it you and Dr. Seaver, or was it you, Ashley, and Dr. Seaver?
I believe we were all on there, all on the invite. It was remote, so when Dr. Seaver sends it out, she sends it to both parents, and
Did you and Ashley attend that appointment together?
I was there alone.
Okay, I'm gonna have you look at my exhibit 1A and 1B. Here, I'll just hand you mine.
Okay.
Can you identify to me what those are?
So 1A is kind of record of a phone conversation that we have, or I had with his care coordinator at Bronson, I believe.
Is
Oh, no, this is from Corwell. Sorry, this is the findings of the STXBP1 and a note to his primary care physician from Corwell Health.
Okay, does it have anything to do, does the first one have anything to do with a meeting with you?
I believe so.
Can I have that, please, so I can,
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm sorry, I haven't looked at this. I'm trying to go through 5 pages.
no, so this was actually addressed to, on June 11th, it was addressed to parents and guardians of Isaiah, is that
Oh.
correct?
Yeah,
And it was a letter directly to to Jamie Harden, is that the pediatrician?
that's primary care.
Okay, so that's
Mhm.
Isaiah's primary care,
Correct.
okay, and this one was sent directly to you at your address at Veronica Street?
I get everything electronically, so yeah, but yes.
Okay, and then if you look at Exhibit B, who is that one addressed to?
So that's addressed to mom. Yeah, so that's That's the Tamarack address, so I couldn't think of a number.
Okay, and these were this was sent to you after you had your meeting?
Yes.
Okay, and it was your understanding from Dr. Seaver that once she met with a parent, she would follow up with the letter, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so on exhibit 1B, do you know after what time Dr. Seaver met with mom?
Yes, August of 2024, so a couple months after I had met with her.
Okay, so mom didn't have an appointment with Dr. Seaver for a couple months.
No, the physician was trying to reach her, and she had reached out to me asking me if there was a better way to reach her, because she had sent messages on my chart and made phone calls.
Now, when you say the provider, Dr. Seaver was the
Dr.
one,
Seaver, yeah,
so she reached out to you to try and get a hold of Ashley.
correct, yeah,
Okay.
asked me if there was a better way to reach her.
Okay, and she didn't meet with mom till after August 15th
August 15th.
of 2024.
Correct.
You know, I'd move to admit proposed exhibit 1A and 1B.
Okay, well, the court will admit plaintiff's exhibit 1A and 1B, there being no opposition.
Now, as we're talking about Isaiah's diagnosis, he was diagnosed with that, so in this summer, correct?
Correct.
Okay, now let's talk about Isaiah as to what his actual developmental disabilities are. What can he do and what can't he do?
His motor is impaired, his motor skills are impaired, but probably high level for STX BP1 kids. He's able to walk, kind of run. I mean, he's a little clumsy, but that's pretty good. As you heard Young say, he has some phrases that he says. If you know him well, you know what those phrases are. You know, like more, kind of sounds like more, or you know, BB is berries, and you just kind of, he has his own words are words, but they're if you kind of got to know him a little bit or hear him a bunch of times to know what he's referring to.
Okay.
He may or may not ever be potty trained. And his communication skills, based upon, you know, the 1,000 people that we know have this at this point, will probably be very limited as he grows older.
Okay, so because you're with him primarily,
Mhm.
you understand his special language?
Yeah,
Okay, is he able to feed himself?
he does a lot of hand eating. He can use utensils, but his fine motor movement is also something that is impaired.
Okay,
So yes and no for a 4-year-old. It should be a little bit better than that, but
Okay.
he does it.
okay, and I'm breaking this down. Now, with this special language, has there been issues with mom not really wanting to communicate with Isaiah?
She can get frustrated with him. You know, I haven't seen mom communicate with him in the last few months, as I haven't had contact with her, but she could get frustrated with that.
When she gets frustrated with not being able to communicate with him, what does she do?
Normally in that case, she just kind of shuts down or says something and leaves the room.
Are there other times that she becomes frustrated with Isaiah?
Not too bad. She's not. There's not a lot of time around him, I guess is what I would say.
She doesn't spend a lot of time with him.
Yeah, get frustrated with him, but if she get frustrated, she would just, you know, leave, go upstairs if she was in the residence, things like that.
So she doesn't seem to handle it very well. Is that fair to say?
That's fair.
Now, with him having these disabilities, how important is it for him to have the stability and structure? Have you become aware if that's needed for him?
Yeah. So it's very necessary. especially with the autism being kind of a secondary diagnosis, the autism spectrum kids, most of them require a lot of structure.
Is he able to clothe himself?
No,
Is he able to brush his own teeth?
a little bit. He needs assistance, but he gets the concept.
I know this is hard and I'm not picking on him. I'm just trying to
No,
get an
that's-
idea of what
They
he
work
can.
with him at that center on that like every day, or
Okay.
at least that was one of the things that Young was mentioning earlier on the ABA. Teeth brushing would be part of that.
Okay, so I'm gonna break down the different therapies, but in regards to the different therapies, how involved are you?
Very involved, yeah.
Are you
Setting
in-
them up and getting him to 90% of them.
So if you're getting him to 90% of the therapies that we're gonna break down, yes,
Yes,
there's another 10%. Who's responsible for the other 10%?
my parents or sometimes Ashley.
Are your parents more apt to get him to and from events, or sorry, to these therapies, or is Ashley?
My parents.
Okay.
I think a lot of that's due to the parenting time as well, but also if you had to bet on one getting them there, my parents would be a better bet.
What do you mean if you had a bet on him getting there, your parents would be a better bet?
Just, he's had some cancellations, Ashley's missed appointments. Sometimes I'm unaware of that until I get the appointment cancellation notice will come up on Bronson or on any of my charts, because I have multiple health apps.
So she's not very, would you call her reliable or non-reliable?
Not reliable.
And we'll break down some different issues recently, but actually, have there been recent things that have caused issues because she's not reliable to getting him someplace on time?
We've had a few missed therapies in the last 3 months, occupational therapy, physical therapy. I believe the providers are kind of aware of the situation. More importantly, I think the Autism Center, he's been even the last 2 Mondays are her Monday to bring him into the center, and he's been more than 4 hours late both times. Both times I received a message from them.
Let me break this down, okay?
Okay.
So hang on.
Yeah.
So what autism center does Isaiah attend?
He goes to Lighthouse Autism Center on West KL,
And how many days a week does he attend that?
all 5 days,
From what time to what time?
8 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Okay, and why he's at the autism center or Lighthouse, what does his day look like?
So he has a therapist dedicated to him. So all the kids have their own one-on-one therapist that they work with all day long. There's some additional support staff, like Young was mentioning, with Becca, who kind of oversees those therapists, and they work on goals. They play, and then they have breakout sessions, very small, short group sessions. And they just work on those goals like toothbrushing and putting on your shoes in some cases. And other kids are a little bit older, and their goals are more advanced than that.
Okay, so he's got some basic goals that he's working on, and we have witnesses who can talk about their goals, so I'm
Sure.
not doing that, but does the Lighthouse Center have a policy in regards to being on time?
Yeah, so you have to text them or call them by 8:05 if you're going to be late, and they'll hold your therapist until 8:30.
And you indicated, so mom returns the child to school on alternate Mondays, is that correct?
Correct.
You said the last 2 Mondays of hers, which would have been this past the 21st,
Yes,
and the October 7th would have been the one before,
yes,
she wasn't on time?
that's correct.
And did you receive calls from Lighthouse?
Yes, call and emails. Their phone system's been messed up for like 3 weeks, so I think
Okay.
it's a lot of emails.
Okay, so, and they were notifying you that Isaiah wasn't present,
Yes,
and you said he was 4 hours late?
yes.
And did that cause issues within the school, to your knowledge?
Yes, they don't say that directly to me, but I can tell that there's some issues, yes,
Okay. And again, we have people doing that,
correct,
but they appreciate you being on time, is that correct?
yes.
Okay. Now, at school, he receives different therapies and we'll learn about that. What other therapies does he have?
So through Bronson rehabilitation therapy, he has occupational therapy, speech therapy, and in the past he's had physical therapy, and he just got re-signed up for physical therapy.
Okay, and how often does he go to OT therapy?
On average, I'd say about once every 2 weeks, but his appointments are once a week, and then occasionally they don't have them, so.
What, so he goes once every 2 weeks, but he's supposed to have them weekly?
He has them at weekly, but occasionally there are appointments unavailable, so I'd say like, 6 out of every 8 weeks he's there, so
Okay.
1.5 weeks.
And you're primarily responsible for getting him to and from those appointments?
Yes.
Do you have to participate in those appointments?
No, you don't. You can. Sometimes it's better if you're there, sometimes it's better if you're not,
Okay.
so,
Do the therapists then provide homework for you to take home to continue to work on?
yes.
And give me an example of things you've had to work on.
So for occupational therapy, it would be even simple things such as like taking a paper and ripping it lengthwise for him to work on his, pinchers, his thumb and his pointer finger, and some of those fine motor things. Speech would be putting two sounds together like beep beep or choo choo or BB even, like that's kind of where BB started, but that would be an example.
Okay, so you have to work with him at home.
Yes.
Are you working with him at home?
Probably not as much as I should, but yes.
Okay. Are you aware if Ashley works with him at all?
I'm unaware of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you aware if Ashley is in contact with the occupational therapist?
She has taken him there. She knows they are aware of each other. I don't know what the relationship is.
Okay, and you said he attends speech therapy.
Correct.
How often does he attend speech therapy?
Same as the occupational, where it's supposed to be every week, but occasionally they don't have an appointment.
Okay, and you said physical therapy is just starting up again.
Just starting up again, but that was in the same prior. He's probably not been doing that for 6 to 12 months at least.
Okay, but you're starting it back up.
That's correct.
Okay, now, and you're working, and you said you're working the best you can at home on these issues?
Yeah, it's a busy time. It's very busy with him and with his requirements.
Okay, he's a kid you have to keep up on.
Every second.
Okay, now in regards to these different therapies that you're arranging and doctor's appointments that you're arranging, would you consider yourself the one who's primarily doing them all?
Yes.
Is it difficult for you to coordinate some things with Ashley?
Yes. Yeah.
And why do you think that you should be the primary person making all of these decisions regarding the medical?
Consistency would be number one, in getting him to his appointments on time. Number two, she has some of her own health issues, and she tends to self-diagnose, self-medicate, make decisions about her health, or I would worry that she would do the same thing here in this case, about his health, especially with the nature of the condition, and really not a lot is known about the condition.
Okay, now you said she has some of her own mental health issues. Yes,
Yes.
what mental health issues are you aware of?
Well, I can't attest to anything 100%.
What does she tell you?
So it's been bipolar, it's been PMDD, it's been, some level of obsessive compulsive disorder, ADHD.
She's told you she's had all of these diagnoses?
That is correct. That's why I can't say exactly what it is, because I've never seen it.
Okay, you haven't seen anything in writing.
Right.
She been known since 2021 to take medication? Has she indicated that to you?
Yes.
And for what of those diagnoses was she taking medication?
Well, the one I know for sure at night has multiple indications. The medication has multiple indications, so it would kind of fit into any of those conditions.
Which one was it?
Seroquel or quetiapine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would she take it regularly?
Yes,
Okay. Are you aware if she's still taking it?
I hope so.
You don't know?
I don't know.
Okay. And how would you describe her behaviors in regards to these diagnoses?
It's erratic and unpredictable. You know, everything is fine with her until it isn't fine.
Okay, so everything's fine until it isn't fine. Is there anything that
Correct.
primarily sets her off?
Not really. It could be anything. Yeah, I mean, there's good and bad days. That's what I'd say is you could have 20 good days in a row, but something bad happens, or in her mind, something bad happens. It can derail really fast.
Okay, now in regards to Lighthouse School, and I'm going back there for a second,
Sure.
how is that paid for?
So they're technically a medical facility. They have they take third-party insurance. Young works for ISK, which you have to have state insurance to qualify for.
Okay,
So Ashley has a primary insurance that works along with the state insurance, and I also have a primary insurance that works along with that.
okay. Has Ashley in the past 6 months threatened to take away the insurance?
Yes.
So tell me about that.
So when she moved out, she threatened to remove the insurance and take him out of the autism center. So
So she wanted to take him out of the autism center?
yes,
Okay,
yeah. So that was one thing we probably could have asked Young there.
it's okay. I have other witnesses. You're fine. So
Yeah,
keep going.
But she did threaten to take him out,
Has she-
actually multiple times. But she threatened to take him out, and actually prior to that, I didn't have a primary insurance that carried him. I just had one that carried myself. And so that's when I added on a life change at work to get a third party that would cover him as well, just to make sure that she couldn't pull him out of there and to keep his therapy going.
Okay, so is that one of the things that she does? That's when things are bad, she just erratically starts trying to threaten things
Yeah.
to remove from the insurance? Would you
Yes.
find it's in Isaiah's best interest to be removed from Lighthouse?
No,
Okay, is that something that's very important to his development?
critical, yeah.
Okay, so you just use the word critical.
Mhm.
So, yes,
Yes,
so being on time to school is also critical employment, is that correct?
yes,
Now, you indicated that she can be erratic. Does she have some violent behaviors?
yes,
Okay, and we have exhibit 8, which is a flash drive, it has some audio or some videos. Do you recall, you gave me those videos, is that correct?
yes,
And you actually, recorded them?
yes.
You recorded them or were they off a Ring camera?
Depending on which videos, there's some that I've recorded and some off of Nest/Ring camera.
Okay, so you have a Nest camera.
Correct.
Did you modify those videos in any way?
No,
Okay, now, one of the videos, was there an incident that she was creating damage in your house?
multiple, yes.
Okay, and explain to me what those are about.
So ones that I have video of probably are the garage door. of
Okay,
her-
so tell me about the garage door.
She was out of the house. And I don't recall where she was, but she was threatening me via text, and she wanted to come inside, and I just said no and had the doors locked, and she doesn't have a key. She never had a key to the residence. So I had the doors locked and the garage door locked, and she was just honking the horn and kicking my garage door and trying to.
Okay, was that after January of 2024?
That's prior, I believe, to 2024.
So one of them is her identified and she's kicking the garage door.
Yeah, I think July of 2023, I believe is that one.
Okay, so July of 2023. And was Isaiah home with you?
I don't believe so.
Okay, do you know where he was?
He would have been at Lighthouse if anywhere. But I'm not 100%. He could have been home as well.
Okay, now have there been other instances where she has broken things inside the home that you've observed?
Yes.
What has she done?
Kicked in my bathroom, cupboard door. I guess it's a vanity, but broken a whiskey bottle, broken my keyboard, broke my Nest camera, thrown multiple things. I can't remember all of them, but those are the ones that are coming to mind.
Okay. Yeah, and I'd move to admit proposed exhibit 8.
We have that.
I believe that you did. If not, I can email it to your staff if you want to.
I don't believe we do, so.
Yeah, just send it to me and I can print it out.
Okay, well, 3 of them are audio, but
Oh,
I'm just sending them right now and there's 3 audio on them.
Can you share that? We give you a share screen, can you play those?
I can if you want to, otherwise I can
Okay.
just email them.
Well.
Okay.
Yeah, let's play them unless they're lengthy, do you know?
They're not super lengthy.
Okay, well, let's play them and we can get them in the record that way so that. We don't
Okay.
have to try to,
Okay,
you,
I'm not the best at share screen, so just bear with me a second. Can you see that?
yes,
Okay, now is this the one where she's what is this one?
That's this. I have 2 different views of this one probably. So that's the Nest camera that she later broke. So that's me opening the door, also videoing from a different angle.
And that's her kicking the door?
Yeah, you see like the light coming through.
Okay, did
Yeah.
she break the door?
I mean, I was mostly able to fix it.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing that one. And these are just examples, is that correct?
Correct.
We could give the court multiple.
Yeah, mostly there's photos. You know, there's a couple of these videos. Video was coming through on that one.
Did the video come through on that one, Your Honor?
no,
Okay, played on my computer. Hang on. See if this is the right one I just played. How tall is Ashley?
5'2" maybe.
Okay,
Yeah,
so she's not very tall, but she seems to be aggressive.
she's not a very big person at all. No, she's probably 115 pounds.
Okay, and I'll just submit those 2 for now.
okay,
Now, you indicated that she broke your keyboard
Yeah.
and then she broke your Nest camera after that.
Yes.
Have there been concerns since the entry of the custody order regarding mom's mental health?
Yes.
Tell me what you mean by that.
Well, I think she told me that she had all 4 of those diagnoses. For one, you know, just being in closer contact with her than I ever had, having her in my home. I kind of learned a lot more about all that.
So with her mental health, have there been calls for wellness checks in relationship to her?
Many.
Now, who is making calls for wellness checks?
Mostly her mother. Sometimes I would call her mom first and just kind of let her know what she was doing and kind of let her make the decision, as she had a longer history of dealing with this than I had.
Have there ever been suicidal threats
Yes,
by Ashley?
yes,
And have that been part of the calls for welfare checks?
yeah, at least a couple of them.
Okay, and how would you describe her relationship with her mom? Not you, how is Ashley's relationship with her mom?
Just very up and down. You know, mostly, I'd say if I had to put a percentage of when it's good and when it's bad, it's probably bad 65% of the time and good 35.
Do you get along with her mom?
No,
Did you used to get along with her mom?
I mean, we're cordial, but she does not like me.
Okay. Are you aware of on September 23rd of 2023, the police being called on a welfare check because Ashley was making comments about being suicidal
Yes,
and saying goodbye to everybody?
yes,
Okay. Was she ever hospitalized to your knowledge
yes,
for suicidal threats
yes.
since 2021?
No,
Okay. Now, do you recall in December of 2023 that again, there were times that Ashley would go missing and wellness checks would have to be called?
yes,
Okay. And again, those were because of mental health concerns regarding Ashley?
I would say they're related.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now, in your petition to modify, you gave a number of reports for wellness checks. So besides
Mhm.
her mom, have there been other people who have called for wellness checks to your knowledge?
yeah. Her other kid's father have called. I believe I called maybe once or twice as well.
Why are you calling for wellness checks?
She's basically mental health, saying she's gonna harm herself or not coming back, gonna sleep in her car. Things like that.
Okay.
Make sure she's okay.
All right. And are those kind of the ups and downs you deal with in relationship to her?
Yes,
How's your mental health?
good as far as I know.
Okay. How about your physical health?
Pretty good.
Okay. And in regards to, let's go back to Isaiah. How would you describe your relationship with Isaiah?
Relationship's good. It is hard to have a relationship where there's limited communication, but we kind of we have our own language in the home.
How do you show him affection?
Lots of hugs. He's a hugger now, so his version, which is kind of a push hug, but it's a hug.
Okay. Now, have you seen him show affection with Ashley?
Yes. Probably not a lot, but before she moved out, I was getting a little better.
Okay. What do you mean a little bit better?
He didn't have much interest in her, I think, because there just wasn't a lot of time together. But
Okay.
towards the end, it's a little better.
Okay. And are you aware if mom took care of her warrants in Calhoun County?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know that there were some existing at some point?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I sometimes all her mail forwards, but at some point I was getting notices to appear. It's still in the mail.
Okay. What's a routine day look like in regards to you and Isaiah?
It's definitely very routine. Depending on the OT/PT appointments, but it's usually, he wakes up about 6:30 usually. Sometimes you have to wake him up by 7. He has breakfast, he watches his show, his lunch around. We get off to the Autism Center by 8 or sometimes a few minutes after 8. And then I usually work all day, and then I pick him up at 4 o'clock. We go home. He has a snack, and then we usually play for a few minutes, and then he usually has a request to either eat or go outside. We either eat or go outside. Usually eat, then he eats. Then he wants his bath. So then he gets in his bath, then he gets in his PJs, then he watches a show, then it's bath, sometimes book or teeth, and then he goes to bed.
Okay. Now, in regards to mom's parenting time, do you have concerns prior to you guys separated in January of 2024? Yes.
Yes.
Was she left alone with Isaiah?
Rarely.
Why do you have concerns with Isaiah being alone with her right now?
Well, I guess fall right to that routine. That's one. It's probably not followed very well, just off of previous experience and her other children being around her other children and
Tell me what
their
that-
routines.
Tell me what that means.
Her other children don't really have routines. And so I would, if I had to guess, and it is more of a guess than I would say that they're probably not following too close to that routine at the Tamarack residence. There was another part of that question I'm forgetting.
It's okay. So I can't remember what I asked you either. I asked you if she wasn't were there other concerns in
Yeah.
relationship to her being alone with Isaiah?
Yeah, so that would be a primary concern. Another primary concern would be him showing up to his appointments on time.
Okay. What about lack of paying attention to him?
That would be a concern, especially if her other kids weren't there. Her other kids are kind of her eyes sometimes in regards to parenting, from my experience,
And Isaiah needs to be watched all the time?
every second. Does not understand danger.
Okay. Now, in regards to, you indicated that your mom and dad help a lot with support.
Correct.
Do you have anybody else that helps with you supporting Isaiah?
Not really.
Okay.
Those are the kids, my kids do. And they understand him. My older one's probably a little better than Riley, but
How about Ashley, her support network? Does she have anybody here?
I think it's really her kids, and I don't know what her custody situation is with her kids. She does have her sister and her mother, but like I said, they can be kind of, her sister and her have a better relationship than her mother and her, but it's also one of those ones that could be not in a good place, depending on probably some mental health things.
Okay, now, in regards to what you're requesting, it's because you can't rely on Ashley to make it to appointments and make their correct decisions, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, so you want to be primarily responsible for those?
Yes,
But in the past, you've been primarily responsible for those, is that correct?
correct.
Okay, you just want to be able to continue that without having to consult with her?
Yes.
Okay, now, we've listened to a couple of things in relationship to her problems on Monday mornings, getting Isaiah to school on time, and we don't have to go into every time because I have somebody else to talk about that. What are you asking the court to do for her parenting time?
I think it would be best if he was returned on his Sunday. Number one, that's with the frequency of being late on Monday morning. I don't think that, and I mean, we have to ask the Autism Center, but I don't want him to be at risk of losing his spot there, and he can stay there till he's 7.
So it's not just the Autism Center, it's the fact that she cancels appointments on my chart and that you've set up and doesn't take him to appointments as well?
Correct, and I would be worried of setting unnecessary appointments for instance, one that she's been trying to get, as I'm following the documentation through my chart, is with neurology for a baseline EEG for epilepsy, because she's probably reading about, speculation here, but reading about the STX-BP1 and the high incidence of epilepsy. But the main study for STX-BP1 is called the STAR study, and they've pretty much ruled out epilepsy past the age of 2 if epilepsy wasn't present prior, but it's very doubtful that she knows that information.
Because she didn't attend the appointment?
Well, that was a conference that happened in between the diagnosis in June that I received and August, when she finally realized, that he has this genetic disorder.
So did she attend that conference?
No, I only attended via web because it was in Philadelphia.
So you're trying to learn a lot more about this diagnosis.
Yes, it's all, I mean, at this point, when you meet with even the geneticist, you know more about the diagnosis than they do, because it's so rare. And so unless you've decided to dedicate, hours of reading about it.
So you're concerned she's pushing a test that's not needed.
That's correct.
Is she on time for exchanges, parenting time exchanges?
Not often, always late. Yeah.
I have no further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Sir, when she is late for the appointments, what would be the normal time that she would be late?
So for ABA, the last couple weeks, it's been 4 hours late.
Right, no, I meant for the parenting time exchange, as you mentioned.
Not tremendously significant, maybe 10 to 30 minutes.
Okay. You mentioned that she had demonstrated suicidal ideation. When would the last time that occurred?
That I'm aware of, I believe it would be on the last wellness check, which was in the winter, in between 23 and 24. I'm not sure of the last date. I think December.
You'd mentioned that at the Lighthouse, that if you're going to be late, that you have to text or call by 8:05 to hold the therapist. So the times where she's been 4 hours late, do you know, has the therapist been held or not?
I believe they sent the therapist home 2 weeks ago. And then yesterday was the last time, and I believe they either held them or had them come in the PM because she reached out and said that she would be in at 12:15.
At the time when she's done this, when she's been late, for a lengthy period of time, or like yesterday, does she communicate with you that she's going to be late?
No. Lighthouse usually gets a hold of me.
So if in fact she doesn't reach out or whatever, is Isaiah able to go if they don't have a therapist for him when let's say he shows up 3 hours late or half a day late or whatever?
Yeah, no, they send the therapist home for the day. That's their policy.
But I'm saying, so if they do, then Isaiah is not able to attend the center, is that?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else, sir, that you thought about that was be relevant to the decision the court has to make?
No, I think we covered most of it during that last hour or so.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Does Paige know anything else as a result of the court's questioning?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Next witness, Ms. Paige now?
Do you want me to call you Becca?
Yeah, that's fine.
Becca, can you tell me where you're currently employed?
Yes, so I am currently employed at Lighthouse Autism Center in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
And what do you do there?
I am a board certified behavior analyst, BCBA for short. So what I do is I have a client caseload of 7 children who all have an autism spectrum disorder diagnosis. And I conduct assessments for these children. And based off of assessment results, I conduct and create a treatment plan for them, which includes helping increase the core deficits of autism, which are communication, social, and then restrictive and repetitive behaviors or any maladaptive behaviors. So based off of that, we work on treatment plan goals. And then I have a team of about 10 technicians who are registered behavior technicians, and they work directly with the children on my caseload to implement these services. I also do monthly parent meetings with each child's parent to ensure that all of these skills and goals that are taught in the center are also being learned in other environments, because we want the kids to eventually not need this therapy and to be able to engage in these behaviors in a school, in the community, etc.
Okay, you just said a lot, so I'm gonna break it down a little bit.
You're good.
Okay, thank you. Now, what is your educational background?
So I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in applied behavior analysis.
And where'd you receive those from?
I have both of those from Western Michigan University.
Okay, and do you have any specific certifications or trainings in addition to what you just indicated?
So I have the board certified behavior analyst. That's a certification, as well as I am licensed, a licensed behavior analyst in the state of Michigan as well.
Okay, so what is your role with Isaiah Lang?
Yeah, so my role with him, so again, I am his BCBA. So I do his 6-month assessments and I write all his treatment plan goals based off of these assessment results. And then my team works directly with them. I train them on any of the programs that they're working with them on. And then I provide supervision to those technicians on implementing the services to ensure that Isaiah is making progress with all these goals, and that everyone is, doing the same programming with him, treating everything, equally and responding the same.
Okay, and so when did Isaiah start at Lighthouse? Do you know?
Yes, he started on August 7th of 2023.
Okay, and when he started there, have you been his case or I'll call him the case manager, the entire time?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and so how many assessments have you done on him since August 27th of 2023?
I believe we have done, let me check real quick. We have done, oh my goodness. 1, 2, 3. We've done 3 since then, and his next one is coming up in January.
Okay, so January of 2025.
Correct.
Okay, now what has he been assessed for? And tell me about these assessments and if there's been progress. Tell me what's going on with him.
Yeah, so again, all of the children that attend Lighthouse Autism Center have that autism diagnosis. So our assessment tool focuses on increasing those core deficits, which is to increase his communication. And this might not necessarily be through language as like you and I are communicating right now. It could be icon exchange or gestures. So working on that, as well as helping him learn how to appropriately interact in social situations. So teaching him how to say hi, for example, and that's how you can, get attention and interact with someone, how to maintain that interaction with people and how to appropriately end it, as well as reducing any of those what we call maladaptive behaviors. So for example, one of the ones for him is when he first started, he would engage in a lot of throwing of non-functional items. So like not a ball per se. So we're working on teaching him other functional skills so that behavior decreases.
Okay, and is he making progress each time you assess him? Is he making progress at the Lighthouse?
Yes, he is. He's definitely made a lot of progress since he started. We've really seen him grow into himself and he's become a lot more social. He loves to say hi to anyone and everyone that walks by. He's learned how to join interactions with a lot more peers since attending here. So we've seen a lot of improvement. And again, with those behaviors decreasing as well.
Did he have specific treatment goals?
Yes, so they have our kids that attend full-time, which he does, which is 40 hours per week. They receive 22 treatment plan goals, and those are the ones that I create. And then as the child masters them, I put in the next step goals or following goals for them as well.
Can you tell me some of Isaiah's goals?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Some of the ones he's working on right now, so we're working on him increasing his communication with an icon exchange. So he has mastered being able to hand someone an icon of a picture he wants. So for example, if we're sitting at lunch and he wants blueberries, he can pick the blueberry icon and hand that to someone, indicating he wants it. And now we're trying to expand his communication there. So we're adding what we call a carrier phrase onto it. So he's saying, instead of just blueberries, I want blueberries. Another communication goal we're doing is to increase that like spoken language component. So we're trying to have him, so if he wants, again, blueberries, we might hold up the blueberries and have him say blueberries, and we're looking for him to make corresponding sounds to increase that language component with him.
How's he doing with that?
He's doing really good. He has, we're still working on a bit of his articulation with that. But this is kind of something common that I see with a lot of the kids here that have the autism diagnosis. But he's definitely gaining, skills in this area a lot, so.
What are some other treatment goals?
Yeah, of course. We're working on a lot of listener goals, which kind of correspond in term of then safety goals. So listening if we ask him to walk with an adult, by holding their hand or walking, in close proximity next to them. So he's not, running off, especially, I always think about this in a community setting. We would never want him to run off from mom or dad in a grocery store, in a parking lot. Kind of the opposite, working on listening if we tell him to come here, and being able to respond to that on the first try. Additionally, a lot of those communication goals I previously mentioned have to do with his expressive language. We're working on receptive language, which is him being able to understand things that we're telling him. So we're working on him being able to identify things with a picture. So we set out pictures and tell him, touch the cat, and he's able to do that. And he's mastered quite a few targets with that one. It looks like at least 10 from what I'm looking at right here.
Okay. Does he have problem behaviors or areas within a day?
Yes, he does. So currently the behaviors that we are tracking are mouthing. So he'll put or something that's not functional in his mouth, such as toys, or we're very cautious here, but from parent report before he started, it sounded like there was sometimes small items that would go into his mouth. So working on reducing that. Also throwing, which I had mentioned. Hitting with like an open hand, we're tracking that, as well as whining or yelling for something, and then flopping, which just entails him dropping his body to the ground.
Okay, and are those behaviors that you're tracking, are they improving?
Yes, they all are. Yes.
And so when he's there and you give these treatment goals, you indicate that you have 7 people underneath you or 10 people underneath you that are working with him as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
And is that throughout the day? Does he see 10 different people, or is it when he's there tell me how he's associated with each person?
Yeah. So when he comes in the morning, his morning therapy starts at 8 a.m. So he comes in and he has a morning technician from 8 until 12:15 p.m. During that time, they implement any of those treatment plan goals that I have put in for him. And then at 12:15, they switch. So he has a different technician in the afternoon. And that's from 12:15 until our pickup time starts at 3:53.
Okay. And based on your experience working at Lighthouse, is it imperative that people are there regularly in order to continue to improve?
Like the children?
child. Yep.
Yes, definitely. Especially for children with autism, they really benefit from having a routine and a schedule in place. So it is very imperative that he, regularly attends. We have an attendance policy. We want to make sure that he's here for that clinically recommended amount of hours per week, which is 40 hours, so that he can, gain the most experience while he's here.
And so what is the attendance policy?
Yeah, so our attendance policy is we require the children to be here 90% of their scheduled therapy time. We do have instances for unexcused absences, which include attending outside therapies such as like occupational therapy or speech therapy. And then we have unexcused, so if they're sick or, there's like a transportation issue, those sometimes most of the time usually are unexcused absences.
How is in general Isaiah's attendance?
His attendance has been really good since he started. He has only had 1 month where he was under that 90%. I think it was in March of 2024 because he was sick, and we have a sick policy. We want the child to be symptom-free for 24 hours. I believe he went home early that day, was not cleared the next day, so he just stayed home an extra day.
Okay. Now, with his therapy, you said that he's improving. Are there any other treatment goals that you guys are working on besides the ones we've discussed?
So those are the ones we work on specifically with him, but part of his treatment package is again that parent portion where I meet monthly with the parents to go over, we have specific parent training goals, again, so that these goals he's learning in the center setting, generalize, and he's able to, you know, engage in them in other communities, other settings with other people. So that's set up once per month with the parent or the caregiver, guardian, whoever is involved in the child's life.
Okay, so these monthly meetings that you have, who attends those meetings on behalf of Isaiah?
So it has primarily been James. Since Isaiah had started in August of 2023, it was James every month until February 2024. And that month, both of them attended. And then after that, it had been James each time until I started setting up separate parent meetings for him and Ashley when the no contact order went in place. And then she had attended one by herself on June 14th, 2024.
So from February of 2024 until June, did she attend any meetings?
No.
So she's attended twice in a year?
She's attended, so she attended in February 2024, and then she attended in June, July, and August.
Okay. Now, at these parent meetings, besides teaching them what you're working on so they can work on at home, are there other things that take place at these meetings?
Yeah, we just kind of give like a, the parents will give like a general update. So, talking about, you know, other things going on in the child's life, how he's doing at his other therapies. That's something that we are able to collaborate with, if the parent wants it. So just seeing how he's doing, you know, with those other outside therapies, just those general check-ins, if he's having, you know, some novel behaviors in the home environment, how can, you know, me and the parent brainstorm to figure out why it's occurring and then come up with a plan to help that decrease.
Is either parent during these meetings more informative of what's going on rather than the others?
No, I'd say when I met with both of them, they were both pretty informed, and we've always had a lot of back and forth conversation, asking a lot of questions. So they've both been attentive when we've had the meetings.
Okay. Is either parent more responsive if you need something during the day?
Typically we've heard more communication from James, but it sounds like from what Ashley has expressed to us that her job, it's hard for her sometimes to communicate. So with our communication line, we send out text messages primarily. We're unable to do group chats, but we always send text messages for any sort of that like day-to-day communication, any sort of events that might be coming up, parent training meetings, any of that important information is always sent to both parents.
Okay. Now, in regards to, is when something is sent out, is James responsive?
Yes.
Is he cooperative with you?
Yes. I feel
Does
like
he-
if we ever have to change our meeting or, you know, if something comes up, there's always a cooperative way to figure out a solution to it.
Okay. Now, back to this attendance policy, what happens if somebody's late?
So, in the morning, again, the scheduled time for our full-time children are to be here at 8 a.m. We have an attendance policy where if the child is running late, and we do not hear from the parent by 8:10 a.m., we send that child's therapist home, because our therapist and me here, we're all, you know, billing insurance for the therapy services that are authorized. If those therapy services aren't being delivered, sometimes the insurance doesn't want to give us the same amount of hours the next authorization period. So at 8:10, if we have not heard from the parent, we send that therapist home, and we consider that a no-call, no-show. However, if we do hear from the parent before 8:10 a.m., we are able to hold their therapist until 8:30 a.m. And at that time, we wait for them to arrive. And then if they have not shown still by 8:30, we would send the therapist home.
Have you had an issue this week in regards to Isaiah not being on time?
We have. So yesterday morning, it was a Monday for Ashley to drop off Isaiah in the morning. And we had not heard from her by that 8:10 mark. So we sent his therapist home for the day. I was in a meeting with another one of my parents, so I was unable to communicate with her. However, I have a very supportive supervisor. She's very involved, with helping the center run correctly throughout the day and smoothly. So she emailed Isaiah's parents to let them know that we were sending his therapist home for the day, to which Ashley had sent back 3 or 4 emails in response, seeming like she was upset and frustrated, and that we had not communicated this policy effectively to her, which we have communicated this policy. It was shared on June 17th, on June 28th, and then the last Monday she had dropped off, which was October 7th, the same incident had occurred. And when she had dropped him off that Monday, they were 40 minutes late, no communication. And when we had told her, unfortunately, we sent the therapist home, she said she wanted to discharge Isaiah from his services here.
So because she was late, she wanted to discharge the services.
Correct.
Would that be beneficial to Isaiah to have his services discharged?
No,
Because progress is being made, correct?
correct. And it's not crucial for him to necessarily attend therapy at Lighthouse, but the process to get into new centers can take upwards of a year. And again, that routine and consistency with children with autism and just individuals with autism in general is very crucial. And it's very disruptive to his routine if he were to be pulled from services.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the 21st. You said there was emails where she was upset and frustrated. Did she ever come into the center at any point during that morning?
Not in the morning. She came in at 12:15, the scheduled afternoon session time for Isaiah, dropped him off. She did not want to speak to my supervisor, our clinical director. Instead, she spoke to only me and our assistant clinical director, Nikki. And she had just mentioned that she asked if we had updated copies of the current legal paperwork. And we said we have, what is most updated on file that has been sent to us. When we've asked her in the past if she has updated copies, she says she does, but she never sends them to us.
Are you talking about like custody paperwork?
Correct, in the no contact order.
Okay, so in regards to, how was her, when she was talking to you, how was her demeanor yesterday at 12:15?
It was just very straightforward to the point. She didn't raise her voice at all. It was a pretty normal conversation, I would say, besides the fact that something was being discussed that was uncomfortable.
Okay, now back on October 7th, when she threatened to discharge the services, did she then take all of his belongings from the center?
Yes, she did. She requested that we start an immediate discharge from services, and became upset that it was not a quick process. The discharge process is essentially creating a whole new report with those progress goals, with all of his treatment plan goals, all of his parent training goals, his long-term goals that we have in there. And she requested all his belongings that are at the center, such as pull-ups, extra clothes, food, anything like that, be taken with her. And we, gave it to her, and she said that we would not see him again, and then she left.
So when she took all the belongings, did she bring the belongings back?
The next morning was one of the days that James had custody, and it was his mom, Isaiah's grandmother, that brought him in that day, and Susan had brought all the items in the same bag back to us.
Okay. Now, was there so we just talked about 2 instances about being on time, and you've told her now at least when someone's, let me go back, when someone's enrolled in Lighthouse, is the policy, the attendance policy spoke at that time?
Yes. However, she did not attend the enrollment meeting.
It was just recently she started to attend meetings.
Correct. Once the no contact order happened in May, I had set up separate meetings with her and James so that they could both still attend the meetings when able to, but also then they could be in separate, vicinities, separate times.
Okay, now in regards to this in policy, was there an issue in May of 2024 regarding attendance at? Or pickup regarding Isaiah?
Not specifically in regards to pick up and drop off. It was more of our respect policy and her not fully understanding, I assume, our policies in regards of pickup. So we have an authorized pickup list, which parents are able to list additional people they allow us to send the child home with. During the enrollment meeting, this is when that paperwork is filled out. James filled that out. He added his parents onto it. And we had seen both of them pick up and drop off multiple times from that August 2023 until May 2024 time period. And then the incident that occurred in May, I believe it was May 6th or 7th, she had called the center, seemingly very frustrated, and said that she was on her way with Isaiah. They were just running a little behind, and that there was an incident that occurred over the weekend between her and James.
Okay, you don't have to tell me all that. So
Okay.
tell me about this incident when she called the school.
So she called the school and she was upset, and she said she was running late with Isaiah. They would be in later. She came in, she said she did not want us to contact James anymore, and she requested that 2 people be removed from the pickup list. They were not on the pickup list, so this was fine. And she said she would pick up Isaiah later in the afternoon to attend outside therapy.
Did she pick up later that day to attend outside therapy?
She did not. Isaiah's grandmother picked him up. When she came in, I asked if she had communicated with Ashley, if there was communication between who was picking up, because Ashley had told us it was her. Grandma had said, yeah, I'll let her know that I'm picking him up to take him to therapy. I also sent Ashley a text message, and then this is when she became upset and called the center, yelling at us, saying that we put her child in harm's way by letting him leave with someone that was not a parent. But then again, explaining, grandma was on the authorized pickup list. We had no reason to not let him go with her.
So she was yelling and screaming at the staff.
Correct.
How was that handled?
So Katie, who is our clinical admin, she works at the front desk. She primarily answers the phone. We try to come to a mutual understanding with her, but typically what happens is Ashley will talk over the phone calls. And if she gets upset, she'll hang up, which has happened multiple times. So it never really feels like there is a collaborative solution that occurs.
Has that been repetitive, that if she's not getting what she wants, it becomes non-collaborative and
Correct.
she's unresponsive or cooperative with you guys?
Correct.
Have there been other times that that's happened where she's called and yelled or came in and yelled at you guys?
Yeah, I'm like, I have all of it on here somewhere. She's been pretty okay with me, civil. We've had a lot of good productive conversations, especially in our parent meetings. Because we all are on Team Isaiah. We want him to receive, the best services. However, there has been times where she's called and become upset on the phone with Katie at the front desk. She has said some unkind things to my supervisor, Avery. So it's just kind of become a pattern of behavior where when we get a call from her, it's usually a negative interaction.
Okay. Do you notice any differences on Monday morning with Isaiah when he's dropped off by his mom?
Yeah, he seems more sad when she leaves. Harder for him to leave her than it might be with dad. But I have always just thought that's because he doesn't see her as often. And, she left as they do when they drop off, and we were able to bring him into, the center and start playing with him and begin his therapy. So really it's just that little bit in the morning that affects him. But once he's, in the swing of things, he's fine and acting normal.
I have no further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
Can you tell me where you're currently employed?
I am currently employed at Lighthouse Autism Center.
And what do you do there?
I am the clinical director of the Kalamazoo West Center. So basically, I am the supervisor to our BCBAs, which stand for our Board Certified Behavior Analyst. You spoke with one of them prior to talking with me, Becca. I essentially ensure that their clinical direction with therapy is making progress. I am their support if things are having issues with therapy. I also step in whenever there are parent conflicts and help to make sure that we're following Lighthouse policies. In addition, if our BCBAs are out, I'm kind of that point person for the family. I will provide communication for them in regarding therapy or absences, or if they have questions, I'm that go-to person if they're typical go-to person, the BCBA is out.
Okay, now, before I get into Isaiah, with communication, do you have more communication with dad or mom in this case?
I would say we typically have very good communication with dad, especially prior to May. Dad gave us a lot of communication. He's always very professional with our his communication. In terms of communication with mom, after May, we saw an increase in communication, but we still lack consistency with communication regarding attendance.
With mom?
Yes.
Okay, now, with this communication with mom, you said dad's was good and it was a lot professional. Is your communication with mom professional? From mom, I should say.
I would say largely it is less professional and not collaborative. A lot of the interactions that I have had with mom tend to be more negative. She tends to provide a lot of demands. We see behaviors around raised tones, eye rolling, threatening to call the police or talk to her attorneys. She has mentioned my weight to my staff. She has also indicated that she wants to light into me, which I believe was her wanting to just, I think, have a conversation, but it was said in a aggressive tone. So I'm not sure if that was more of, she was just very upset. When I asked to have a meeting with her following up after that, she said she would have a meeting, but then she didn't stay for the meeting. So I can't really say what that meant. But in general, I would say interactions are largely negative when I've had them with mom.
If the center needs something such as clothing or food or diapers or something like that for Isaiah, who do you reach out to?
Typically, I would say before May, we would send a lot of that stuff to dad because he was our primary contact. Now, since May has came about, I keep referencing May because that's when mom started becoming more involved with us. We have sent those things to both parents. Dad, based on the custody agreement, we typically see him much more. So he typically is the one that provides those. Prior to May, though, we did have communication with mom as well. We would always send her updates on when parent trainings were going to be, which we hold monthly, as well as just general updates about Isaiah. Those were typically not answered.
From mom?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in regards to Isaiah, besides overseeing the therapist, what is your specific role with Isaiah?
So with Isaiah, I am a little bit more indirect in his therapy here. Like I said, I am the supervisor for Becca, who is the person who creates all of his programming, his protocols. She's the one that meets with parents monthly. I am the one that has had conversations with dad and with mom when Becca is not here or not available, whether that she's in a meeting or she is out on PTO or sick. I'm their kind of point person. I'm also the person that kind of sits in on some meetings when parents are upset, which is in terms of Isaiah's parents is typically with mom. I will say though, we started having more interactions with mom as of May of 2024, so of this year. And I went on maternity leave about a week and a half after that until August 8th. So I was out for quite a bit of time, so my assistant clinical director was involved a lot in having kind of those communications. But since returning, I've been the one that's kind of sitting in and having some more of that communication.
Now, as part of your role, is it your responsibility to make sure the parents are aware of what the policies are in regards to Lighthouse?
Yes.
Okay, and does that include the attendance policy?
Yes.
And there's been issues recently in regards to attendance with Isaiah during mom's parenting time, is that correct?
Yes.
And is that where is that one of the things you get involved with then besides Becca?
Yes. So in the past month, when mom was supposed to bring Isaiah to the center on Mondays, we have a policy where he's scheduled to be here by 8. If we don't hear any communication from parents by 8:10, we have to send his therapist home and cannot provide therapy for that day. We communicated this policy to all families in June via text message. So I have those texts. And this month we've had multiple instances where we have not had communication regarding that. And so we have sent his tech home. Ashley has brought him still on one of the occasions. On October 7th, she brought him to the center. We told her that we didn't have a therapist for him because it was 8:40. We hadn't heard from her. And then the last situation of this happening was yesterday. In that situation, I sent an email to both mom and dad just reiterating our policy so that way both parents would have it in writing a second time.
And how was mom's reactions on those 2 occasions with you?
On the October 7th occasion, she was appeared to be very upset. Our tones were much more elevated. She did threaten to remove him from services and asked us to start discharging him from services. When we explained that it takes a little bit of time for us to get a discharge report written up, she was not happy with that. We ended up learning through the case manager that she was not going to pull him from services, so we were glad to be able to continue providing services for him. The situation yesterday, she was also not happy about. She called our center 4 times within a couple of minutes. That's when she asked to have me call her. And typically when she asks to have me call her, she gives a very specific time. Unfortunately, I wasn't available at that time, so I sent an email saying that I could meet with her when she dropped him off at noon. And at that time when she dropped him off, she completely ignored me. She only talked to my assistant clinical director. She rolled her eyes when I greeted them at the door. She was appeared to be very unhappy with our communication. She sent multiple follow-up emails, one of which said that she didn't think that we had, good discernment of what situations were.
What situations was she talking about?
Basically, whether or not we understand when we should be communicating to her. We have had historically a number of situations where we have talked to mom. I've actually had conversations with mom 8 times about this, about when we would make a phone call to her versus when we would maybe use our text system. Unfortunately, our text system is down. It's been down for the past 2.5 weeks. So we've been using emails instead, which we communicated with parents. She has asked in the past that we call her twice a day for every little instance of things, which is unfortunately not possible. We have 25 learners here, and we've explained that we're not able to call her over every little thing. But if there is something large that happens, he gets injured, or she has asked if someone picks up besides her, that we call. Which we have agreed to and she has agreed to, but that is one of those things that she continues to bring up, even though we feel like on our end she agrees to our kind of solution to that, which is that we will send her updates via text or email at this time, and call regarding some of those more, bigger emergency situations. In this email yesterday, she said that she did not feel I was able to discern what was an emergency situation.
Do you have a problem discerning what an emergency situation is in relationship to Lighthouse?
I don't believe so.
Was she saying that her not being on time was an emergency situation?
No, I think she was just basically saying that I was disrespectful, and that she doesn't trust our communication.
Just between you and her? Or the whole Lighthouse?
At that time, me, but she has stated that she does not trust Lighthouse or specifically the center in general. She has told my clinical administrator, who is the person who typically answers our phones, is the first person to answer our phone, that we are the Wild West, and that we change our policies, which whenever we do change our policies, we always make sure that we give parents an update on that, whether that's via a printed out document or text messaging. We always make sure that there's some type of written communication for parents, typically in addition to verbally talking with them about it.
Okay. And she's since May attended monthly meetings, is that correct?
No, so based on her work schedule, she, instead of having a scheduled parent meeting every 4 weeks, she has told us that she would text in and let us know when it fits her schedule. I don't know exactly how many she has attended, but it has not been a consistent one every month since May.
Okay, based on her work schedule, you said.
Yes.
Okay, now you indicated that she often is, I'm gonna use the word reactive to something that happens and seems to blame the school for the situation. Is that a fair summary?
That is what we have observed. Yes.
So she creates an incident and it becomes your fault?
Yes.
Hypothetically, if a parent keeps pushing like these types of issues, is it going to impact Isaiah's care or therapies?
It could, in the sense that we do have a respect policy that all parents sign off on in the initial treatment plan meeting. Ashley did not attend that initial treatment plan meeting, only James did. James did sign off on that specific clause as well. It is in part of our enrollment packet that I did print out and give to Ashley in May when she started attending and having more communication with us as well. So that could impact it. Otherwise, just because a parent's upset with us doesn't mean we would not provide quality services or continue to try to do our best for Isaiah at the end of the day, which is something I've told her case manager and we have tried to convey to parents, is we are team Isaiah. We want what's best for him. And it's just unfortunate that this communication and reactivity has kind of affected our ability to provide supports, because when this happens, a lot of the times it pulls the managers off of the floor. So a lot of the times when situations happen, I have to be involved. My assistant clinical director is involved. Becca, the BCBA for Isaiah, is involved. My clinical administrator tends to be involved, and we end up having to have a lot of meetings or spending time putting communication down in a document. The incident yesterday, I ended up moving meetings around during my day so that way I could attend some of these extra meetings, which ended up creating an additional hour of work, which is okay, but it happens every time. It kind of disrupts the center.
No further questions for this witness.
Lopez, thank you for your testimony. You're free to go. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You as well.
Michelle Vanderbeek,
Can you tell me where you're currently employed?
Bronson Outpatient Rehabilitation.
And what do you do there?
I'm an occupational therapist.
All right, and how long have you been an occupational therapist?
I would 6.5 years.
All right, and have you been employed at Bronson Outpatient Rehabilitation since then?
I've only been here for a little over a year.
Okay, and where did you work prior?
NovaCare Kids and Arcadia Center for OT.
Okay, and how long, what is your roles in an occupational therapist?
To help kids in areas that they're struggling with, whether it be for fine motor skills or play skills, dressing, regulation.
And so are you familiar with Isaiah in this case?
Yes,
And how are you familiar with him?
I treat him.
And you treat him for what? Just in occupational therapy?
Yeah, so we're working on like fine motor skills and some balance coordination, gross motor skills, but you know, self-feeding skills.
And so I was gonna ask you what's his diagnosis? Do you know?
He has many diagnoses. Would you like me to pull them up?
Sure.
Okay.
While you're looking for that, when you do occupational therapy, do you
Yes.
keep progress notes?
We do.
Okay, and how often are you seeing Isaiah? I know you're still looking for that, but how often are you still seeing how often do you see Isaiah?
Once a week.
Okay, and how long have you been seeing him?
About a year.
Okay, and with these progress notes, does it outline the specific goals,
Yes.
objectives, et cetera, each week that you have with Isaiah?
Yes, I mean, we have our general goals that we are in there, and then on the progress notes that we do every 30 days, we'll comment on them, but our daily notes will document how he's doing towards his goals.
Okay,
In
and, go ahead.
sorry, no, you're fine. Okay, sorry, I'm still looking for his diagnoses here. Hang on, I had redone it in because he's got the
ICD-10 code for his genetic
Okay,
disorders.
you can't talk, you're fine.
that should be what maybe that wasn't his.
So let me stop you. Is it autism?
So there were multiple. There was like autism, the STBX1, I think is what it is. There's like fine motor, I think developmental, but I wanted to be specific. And so I'm just trying to pull up my more recent one that we updated what all the diagnoses were, because I had multiple ones in there. Because it was my most recent research. Oh. Was that the?
No, so he can't testify. Is he trying to help you find something?
Oh, yeah, I'm just
Yeah,
trying to.
yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I updated some in his history, but basically we have on here for like one of the referrals, fine motor difficulties, or impaired gross motor coordination, autism spectrum disorder. These are,
Lack of muscle weakness,
yeah,
coordination,
yep,
ADL's impaired.
yep.
And those would all be in your treatment notes or progress notes. Is that correct?
Should be, yes.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd move to admit proposed exhibit 3.
Court will admit plaintiff's exhibit 3, there being no opposition.
Okay. Now, Michelle, in regards to his treatment, can you just kind of tell me what some of his treatment goals are that you're working on him in the last several weeks?
I mean, we're working on scooping with a spoon, like scooping different items and trying to get it up so that he can coordinate self-feeding skills with spoons. We are working on pincer grasp and pinching and pulling things through so that we can help with dressing tasks. We're working on some visual motor integration, so like some stacking blocks. We also do regulation and some gross motor coordination, so like going through tunnels and over like uneven surfaces and through obstacle courses.
How does Isaiah do in this therapy?
I feel like he does pretty well.
Is he making good progress?
I would say I feel like he's made a lot of good progress since I first started seeing him. He's definitely like, he's able to maintain like sitting on a swing. He used to, just like flap over. And he's doing more, and he's able to attend for a longer period of time to tasks as well, which before he was kind of all over the place. So I do feel like he's been making pretty good progress.
Okay. Now, do you have more contact with mom or dad?
Dad,
Okay. And have you met mom?
yes,
How many times?
2.
And when you met with her, was there a difference in relationship to regulation with Isaiah?
I would just, there was one time
What
that
happened?
he was just really upset, and I don't know if it was because it was on a different day, that it had been rescheduled to, but he was just upset and crying.
And mom was present for during that time?
Yes,
Okay. And do you have conversations with dad?
yes,
Do you have to talk to him about what things he needs to work on at home?
yes.
And what types of things do you have him work on at home?
I mean, whatever we were addressing that week. So whether it's like ripping paper, pinching little things and pulling or scooping or stacking blocks, it just depends on the week, but basically those kind of activities.
Do you, when you see Isaiah again, can you determine if he's been working on those things at home?
I mean, it's kind of hard to tell if they've done them at home, but if kids are making pretty good progress, they're typically doing the home exercise program.
I have no further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Ms. Anderbeek, that will conclude your testimony then. Thank you. You're free to go, and we'll have the other individual testify. Go ahead, Ms. Baisno.
Thank you. And Ken, can you tell me where you're employed?
Yes, I'm at Bronson Pediatric Rehab.
And what do you do there?
I'm a speech pathologist.
And as a speech pathologist, are you working with Isaiah?
I am, yes.
Thank you. And how often do you see Isaiah?
His frequency is 1 time a week.
All right. And who brings him to those appointments?
I'd say probably mostly dad, apparently occasionally a grandparent, and mom a handful of times.
So you said mostly dad, a couple times grandparents, and a handful of times mom?
Yes.
Okay. And what types of things are you working on with? Explain to me what's going on with Isaiah. How about that?
Oh, he just has some difficulties with communicating clearly, and I think also with understanding what we are saying to him. So he has a lot of single words. He can name a lot of objects, and can make some simple requests. And we have been working on the clarity of his 2-syllable words, on putting 2 words together, and following a 2-word direction.
Okay. And do you work with Lighthouse at all in regards to the therapies they're doing at Lighthouse Academy?
No. Okay,
so this is an additional therapy that he's receiving. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And how long has he been attending?
I've seen him a couple years on and off. I think I saw him a couple years ago for a while, and then we took a break for 6 months or so, and then he's been back maybe 6 months again for me.
Okay. Why did you take a break for 6 months?
His skills had plateaued. We had been working on the same skills over and over, so I discharged him with a plan to give him a little more time to see if some time went by, if he'd be more mature and like ready to work on some goals again.
Okay, so when he came back, had he matured and ready to work on some goals?
Oh yeah, yes, he absolutely has been making some good progress over the last 6 months that he had not been making previously.
Okay. And what type, so he's making good progress. What have you noticed in order to interpret that he's making good progress?
He has begun to put with I feel like I've just been using fewer cues. I had been like telling him 2-word phrases, and now he's like, sometimes I'll give him the first word and then he'll fill in the second word. or even with the 2-syllable words, I'd have to like give him just like one part at a time, and he's starting to synthesize 2 syllables together more clearly.
Okay, now in regards to the therapy, you keep notes as well, is that correct? You keep progress notes after each visit?
Right, there's a daily treatment note after each visit.
Okay, and you keep those in the ordinary course of business?
Yes.
Okay, do you keep track of who attends what appointment with the child, or is it just something you, when you said dad
It
attends?
is, yeah, no, it's documented in each note.
Okay,
It wouldn't specifically say which grandparent. Usually it'll say like mom, dad, grandparent. So like the specifics of which grandparent was there is probably not in my note, but it would say mom, dad, or grandparent.
okay, and does he currently have long-term and short-term goals?
Yeah, I think I have long-term goals written for him. I'm not sure that I have short-term goals written.
Okay, just give me a couple examples of his long-term goals.
That he'll produce 2-syllable words correctly in 80% of his trials, that he would follow one command with one object in 80% of trials, that he would combine 2 words with minimum cues.
Okay. And Your Honor, I'd move to admit proposed exhibit 7A.
7A, did you say?
Yeah,
Okay, court will admit plaintiff's exhibit 7A, there being no objection.
and you, as again, you indicated that he is making good progress and that should continue.
Yes.
And with your involvement with dad, who sits, do the parents sit in session, or is it just you and the patient?
In this case, I usually do not have parents in the room. It's kind of a case-by-case basis, depending on how each individual child would function, if they're too distracted by a parent in the room, or if they work better without the parent. And in this case, he's usually in the room by himself with me.
Okay, and have you had, your interactions with dad, have they been pleasant?
Yes.
Has he been cooperative?
Yes.
Has he been, does he ask for information and helps, and how to help improve Isaiah at home?
Yes.
I have no further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Hold on, thank you for your testimony. You're free to go and have a good day.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next witness, Ms. Paisno, if any.
Your Honor, my only other witness would be someone here at 11:30. Is there a Karina in the,
No, not at the moment.
if this court wants, I can just do an offer of proof as to what she would indicate and who she is.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so Karina Acevedo, if I'm saying her name, also works for Bronson Healthcare as an ENT, a physician. She's a physician assistant. As an offer of proof, she would indicate that she has been responsible for coordinating care in regards to Isaiah, in regards to tubes in his ears. She had worked with surgery. There were some vocal things in regards to the vocal cords for the minor child that somebody else in her office worked with. She has, based on my offer of proof, only ever had contact with the father in this matter. Mom has not been to an appointment or has reached out to her regarding the surgeries, et cetera, that Isaiah had dealt with regards to tubes and anoids associated with that. She would also just quickly say that Dad has always been cooperative. When she sees him in the office, Dad is always very patient with Isaiah. He's kind. He wants to make sure that he understands everything, as well as understands the developmental issues with Isaiah to make sure he feels comfortable in that setting.
Okay. Well, the court can accept that as offer of proof. Anything else, Ms. Paisno?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, that concludes your proofs.
Yes.
Would you like to make a closing argument?
Your Honor, I'll just be real brief. As this court is aware and will review the evidence and heard the testimony of the parties, it seems that Dad has been primarily responsible for, although Mom participates, Dad has been primarily responsible for coordinating and making sure that Isaiah has the proper care regarding his diagnosis. This is a new diagnosis. It seems in the future there may be some issues associated with that. Dad seems to be on top of that. Maintaining consistency and stability regarding Isaiah seems to be of his utmost importance. There is concerns in regards to Mom's mental health, her mental stability, as this court heard from the school. If things seem to not be going her way, she is quick to blame them, yells and screams at them. wants to make her issue somebody else's fault. The concern here in regards to legal custody is the fact that with these diagnoses, the different therapies and having to move, Mr. James needs the apparent authority in order to, without consulting with mom, make decisions that are in the best interest of Isaiah. In addition to that, there's concerns that, as this court heard, mom believes that she has the authority to remove the minor child from Lighthouse, just based on her disagreement with them. And we have concerns if she continues to maintain joint legal custody, that she will continue to make those threats, cause issues there because she has the authority to do so. In regards to the parenting time, my client has indicated that he would appreciate seeing supervised parenting time. However, at a minimum, at least reduce her parenting time to Sunday evenings. So alternate weekends from Friday until Sunday evenings, to prevent the minor child from being to school late, because it is very disruptive in relationship to his education and therapies. So we would ask that this court enter an order granting my client sole legal custody and leave it to the court's discretion in regards to parenting time.
Okay, thank you. Well, in this matter, the court notes that, again, the last custody order in this case was back in September of 20th, 2021, granting the parties joint legal custody and granting to the plaintiff physical custody in this particular case. The defendant was provided with alternating weekend parenting time from Friday at 4:00 p.m. to Monday at 9:00 a.m., as well as a midweek from 3 to 7 p.m. in this particular case. We've heard a lot of testimony as to Isaiah and the issues that he has at this point. What the court is going to do is, court notes in looking at this matter that obviously there's no challenge in this case to the physical custody. And the court notes in, again, deciding custody issues, the court has to look at and determine whether there's an established custodial environment. Established custodial environment exists if over appreciable time the child naturally looks to the custodian in that environment for guidance, discipline, necessities of life, and parental comfort. The statute provides that the age of the child, the physical environment, and the inclination of the custodian and the child as to the permanency of the relationship shall be considered. In this case, there's no doubt that, as I stated back in September 2021, the plaintiff was granted the physical custody of the minor child. As we look at those factors, I'm going to just briefly address it. It does appear, and it's not disputed, that the again, the established custodial environment is with the plaintiff father. Again, when we look through the testimony of the plaintiff, as well as some of the other individuals today, it's very clear that he is the one that's principally involved in the care of the minor child. As to those particular factors, that there is consistency in his particular situation, that he, in fact, is residing where he had been for approximately 15 years. So there is the, again, the consistency there, that he has worked in his present job for about 8.5 years, that he makes a good income, approximately $200,000 per year, able to care for the minor child, that in fact, he has stated that he's in good health, he's in good mental health. He has testified that, in fact, the defendant has informed him that she has had multiple diagnoses of bipolar, of other, ADHD, other conditions that she's had. She's been on medication, Seroquel, for a period of time, not knowing what that additional period of time is, but she has in fact had that. So the court does believe that when the court considers those factors without going into them, because again, it's not in dispute, that the established custodial environment is with the plaintiff father, as I've stated. Court then has to look at the main issue is the legal custody, and that is provided for under MCL 722.26A, which provides that the parties are to be advised of joint custody. And the court has to look at the factors under section 3 of the Child Custody Act, which is again the best interest factors as to whether to grant that. And as I said, the court's done a very cursory examination of those factors, but again, they're not in dispute, nor is the defendant present today at the hearing to dispute those. The court would note we did have a motion hearing back on July 15, 2024, in which the defendant stated that she was going to have an attorney present and that she would have basically that the court waited for some period of time for an attorney to contact the court so that we could set up this particular hearing. We never received a communication from an attorney on behalf of the defendant. And as a result, the matter was set up and notice was properly sent out to the defendant at her Tamarack address. In looking at this, the other factor the court has to look at is whether the parents are able to cooperate and generally agree concerning important decisions affecting the welfare of the child. In this matter, we look at and see that, as stated, the child has substantial health issues. Those have been documented today as to his condition with the autism, with the situation that he has on the STXP or BP1, as well as other situations that the conditions the plaintiff had testified to, and he is involved in and attends the Lighthouse Autism Center, where he is 40 hours a week, and he is again getting occupational, getting speech therapy, physical therapy as well, and it simply involves a lot of professionals who have testified today in this case. It's clear from listening to the testimony of all those individuals that, in fact, the plaintiff has been the one primarily responsible for that care, if you would, in this case. The parties had all, the plaintiff had testified that he was responsible and very involved, that he had responsible for taking Isaiah to approximately 90% of those, that his parents were in fact responsible for the other 10%, although he did acknowledge that the defendant does take to some, however, that she's not reliable, she's missed appointments, and she's also canceled as well. The individuals from the Lighthouse had testified as to their policy in this particular case, that if in fact the child is not going to be present and the child has to attend from 8 to 4, 5 days a week, that they in fact have to receive a call by 8:05, and then most recently the last witness from Lighthouse has said it was 8:10. And in fact, if they're going to be late, or if they're not going to attend, so that they can in fact release the therapist that would be required to be present for the child during those sessions. A therapist is involved in the morning session, then a different therapist would take over at 12:15 for the afternoon sessions. And in this particular case, there was testimony that the last 2 Mondays in this case that the defendant has missed without calling in, and as a result that the therapist had to be released. Particularly, there was the incidents that occurred on, I think it was October 7th. I haven't seen that where, October 7th, where the defendant showed up 40 minutes late for that session, that she had not called in, that we had the I think it was Miss Lopez that testified in this matter that no. Sorry, it was Miss Rebecca Rundgren or Youngren, where she had testified that the defendant had been informed of the policy back on June 17th, on June 28th, and that she had informed her well on the October 7th date about the policy, that again, she would have received the notice of the policy had she attended the enrollment meeting, but she did not attend that. And when the defendant was informed that the child could not attend on the October 7, 2024 date, that because he was more than 40 minutes late, she stated at that time that she wanted to discharge services from the Lighthouse Autism Center. She wanted him discharged immediately and requested all of the belongings at that particular time. The court would note that in this case, there was testimony by Ms. Lopez in this matter, that as well as Ms. Youngren, that when a student is discharged from the program, that it's more of a lengthy process, that they have to do a discharge summary, that they have to do other action as well. And apparently what had happened is after that blow up in which the defendant basically had some difficulties, that she was aggressive, made some threats to Lighthouse. And in fact, I think it was this Youngren that the defendant stated that she wanted to light her up. And she took that as a threat. She also threatened to call the police, call her attorney, and that the communication with the defendant has been less than cordial and less than supportive of the child in this particular matter. Thankfully, the child was not removed, and on the next day did return, and the grandmother apparently brought Isaiah in with all of the belongings that had been removed previously. The court would note that there was one other communication that was testified to by Ms. Youngren, in which the defendant called and stated she did not somehow, I don't know how she anticipated this, but she thought she could have the plaintiff removed from the list as to the contact or pickup persons. She also wanted 2 other individuals removed from the list that subsequently turned out to not be on the list. And at that point, she did call and was very yelling, screaming at the staff, was upset with the staff. She was stated she was unkind with the staff. And as Ms. Lopez stated in this matter, it's very difficult because when this happens, that it in fact takes individuals, as she said, off the floor, takes the therapist away from their jobs at the center, and is very disruptive as the fact that they have to make the reports. They have to, again, address the issues in this particular matter. They also stated that the defendant would, she did not attend monthly meetings. She did attend some, but she would not attend on a regular basis. That the defendant would create situations through her actions, being late, not calling in, etc. And then she would blame it on the staff and on the center in this particular case. That when the court looks at this situation, the court is mindful and does believe that the continued attendance at the Lighthouse Autism Center is extremely important for Isaiah. the individuals had testified, all the persons had testified in this matter, the therapists and the providers had testified that he was making progress. Even Mr. Holden testified that, again, the speech therapy had been halted for a period of time. He had seen him for 6 months, then he had plateaued, then they took a break and had him back in 6 months, that he's now making progress as a result of his maturation and maturity in this particular matter. But notwithstanding that, the court is firmly convinced and clearly convinced that this program and this center is essential for Isaiah. And the court does believe that, based upon the defendant's conduct, that she is jeopardizing that in this particular matter by, again, her threats to the staff or threats to have him removed from the program, or demands of having him removed immediately, notwithstanding that there was joint legal custody. She doesn't have the right to make those important decisions until she has communicated with the plaintiff and attempted to arrive at a solution. If the parties cannot come to a resolution or an agreement, then the parties are required to then communicate with the court and ask that the court would intercede and address those particular issues. She has not done that. She's attempted to usurp the authority of the co-parent, as well as to make decisions that would be not in Isaiah's best interest as it relates to his progress on his autism and the other issues that he's facing. As a result, the court does believe that that Isaiah would be at risk in this particular matter, with the continued ability of the defendant to make decisions concerning Isaiah's care. As a result, the court does believe that the plaintiff has met his burden by clear and convincing evidence that it is in the best interest of Isaiah that the court would change the joint legal custody, and the court will so order that the plaintiff shall have the sole legal custody of Isaiah, as well as maintaining the sole physical custody, as the court had previously mentioned. As it relates to parenting time, it does appear, based on what the testimony of the plaintiff himself states, that in fact the parenting time has gone well, with the exception of the Monday morning parenting time. That in fact that has been apparently the only problem, although there was, court will note that under the motion filed in this particular matter, the court did note that the defendant had kept Isaiah on one midweek overnight, but that was not addressed today, so the court doesn't take that as to be a substantial issue in this particular case. But as a result, the court does believe, based on what I've already stated, that the continued parenting time for the Sunday overnight to Monday morning is detrimental, and that it does jeopardize Isaiah's continued schooling and therapy. As a result, the court will modify the parenting time to the alternating weekends from 4:00 p.m. on Fridays to Sunday at 4:00 p.m. Continue the midweek from 3 to 7 in this matter, and so the court will so order. Ms. Paisno, is there anything else the court needs to address or has failed to address before we conclude?
I don't believe so, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Paisno, you can prepare that order modifying custody and parenting time and submit it under a 7-day notice of entry.
All right, I can do that. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, and thank you, so Liam, and appreciate your testimony, your being here, and hope you're free to go. Have a wonderful day.